Good Wednesday, everybody. Top of the world to you. Hope everybody's doing good. I wanted to talk a few minutes this morning about the Dr. Maya Angelou famous quote saying, where she said that when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And it's a pretty popular, famous quote that just resonated with a lot of us because um, things that are truthful, whether they come out of the Bible or somebody's mouth or a saying from 3,000 years ago, if at their core they're truth, they're really powerful. That's why people resonate with it. And when she said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time, it really resonated with a lot of us because it reminded us there was warning signs all along. There was clues all along. I've even in my years when I would counsel, people would go through a divorce after 10, 15, 20 years. And then the person would say, at the end of it, I don't even, I felt like I was deceived. Like he was a totally different person than I thought he was. And we know that's not true, because in the process of talking to somebody like that, you're like, yeah, but didn't you pick up on this? And didn't you pick up on that? People will always show you who they are, whether or not we want to believe them or not. That's why Dr. Maya Angelou's quote is so powerful. It's not that she says, it's not that she ended her quote with, when people show you who they are, believe them. The power in that quote is, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time, because they will keep showing you over and over and over, but the power in that quote is believe them the first time. So anyhow, that's what I wanted to talk about for a few minutes. And all of us will have these experiences in life where and I'll tell you the other thing about that saying. The last few weeks, I've had a different light on it. I've just kind of processed it and looked at it in a different way. Back 20 years ago, when that saying resonated with me, it would be like, when people show you who they are, just be done with them. Just be aware of them. Here's your reasoning or excuse to just walk away from them, cut them out of your life, move on from them. And here lately, that it doesn't resonate in any of those ways with me. When I think about when people show you who they are, believe them the first time, you can still remain friends. You can still remain cohorts. You don't have to cut nobody out of your life. You don't have to even distance yourself from somebody. But it's wise to be aware of who you're dealing with. It's wise to understand the for lack of a better term, the baggage that person brings into who they are. As opposed to, the old saying, cut them a little slack. Well, some people are very untrusting. If you go back, there's some reasons for that. I don't understand the whole reasons of people being two-faced and backbiting and talking about people behind their back and saying stuff. I mean, to me, I just know that's who I'm not. I'm just not that kind of person. It doesn't enthrall me or have no kind of energies that excite me about it. I just know that when I've sat at a dinner table in years past and maybe the conversation turned about somebody and this one said that and this one said that, and although I got it from the dinner table and I felt kind of dirty for just being a part of it, like, no, just something about this don't feel right. Even though I was sitting there at the table, you just, those are just things. But anyhow, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. I had a dear friend that, and looking back over my life, I actually could probably count what I consider deep, deep friends probably on one hand. Now, being a pastor of a church and being in ministry and a lot of the other parts of my life, I've had many friends, many friends. I've got many friends on Facebook. But when I think about a friend, when Solomon said there's a friend that will stick to you closer than a brother, those are on a hand. I could name them on a hand. One of those friends, right after my divorce, and moving to Grant Park, I became friends with this guy, and over about 20 years, just a very dear friend. I understood his quirks. I understood the things that kind of made him tick. I understand his anxiety. We traveled together. We hung out at each other's house. He lived with me in the process of moving from Iowa to Georgia, and lived with me another time, this and that and the other, for months. And he'd buy my house. And just a dear friend. I knew from his background that when he was 7 years old, his mother and dad drove up to the orphanage in Macon, and at 7 years old, they came out and got him out of the car with his brother, and his mom and dad had made the arrangements, and they drove off, and they never came back to get him. And when he finally told me about that incident, his nature made more sense to me. It devastated a 7-year-old little boy. Devastated him to be abandoned. And that's what I picked up on him the 20-something years that I knew him. I knew that I had watched him over 20 years abandon people that was in his life. For instance, he had a lady when he was 17 or 18, he came out of the orphanage. A lady that worked at the orphanage took him in her home, and he lived with her for about 5 years during that period. She helped him buy him a Honda and co-signed for him to buy a house. Just this wonderful person to him that just... I watched him have a disagreement with her, and as the years went by, I would tell him, I'm like, why don't you call her? Just call her. She's old. Call her. No, I'm done. And I had seen him do that with other people in his life that were good to him. He kept reliving. He would have to abandon people before they abandoned him. And I know, I'm not a head shrink or nothing like that, but it was just obvious to watch him over a period of 20 years how he would make sure he abandoned people at some point. Always in the back of my mind, I knew that one day would be my turn for him to do the same to me. And I was aware of that. And that's why that I say that when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. So anyhow, just to narrow this down, back 5 or 6 years ago, he lived in the neighborhood. He bought a house. He's moved out of state now. And it's just so strange when people, for whatever reason, decide that, if they decide that you're not going to be a part of their life anymore, even if you know the history of people and know how they deal with their walking ways and their stuff. So 5 or 6 years ago, he had called his birthday. He was born on December 24th. So 5 or 6 years ago, he called me a day before that or whatever. And I had went to his birthday every year, and he had a very small circle of friends, me and maybe 3 other people. And and this is the only thing I can surmise or come up with. He had called me and invited me and Ava to his birthday party on Christmas Eve. Well, I have grandkids now. And so I just told him, I said, well, why don't we do dinner one night during the week, and I'll celebrate your birthday on that end, take you out to dinner or something. I said, but it's Christmas Eve. Ava and I are with family. She's going with her family. I'm going over to be with my grandkids. And he's like, okay. And after that, I didn't think nothing about it. But I called him a few days later. It went to voicemail. I called him, and over the weeks ahead, and at some point you get that feeling somebody's avoiding you. And then as a couple of months went by, he just never did answer my call or return a call or text or anything. And so I knew, and it didn't make me angry at him. It didn't make me feel anything about him, because he lives out of state now. And this was a close friendship. Because he had no family, in a folder at my shop, there's power of attorney, financial power of attorney, all these legal documents that he's gave to me, like, Eddie, I want to be buried. I don't want to be cremated. What to do with, he's a guy of substance. He has a pretty, and all this stuff was, so it was that kind of a relationship and trust involved. But I knew that he had showed me over those years who he was. He always remained that 7-year-old little boy that felt like he was going to be abandoned. And so anyhow, I haven't heard from him in several years, and I called and left him a voice message when Sammy passed, because he loved Sammy at one time. Him and Sammy Sammy and him lived together for a couple of years, and they had a falling out, and he never had nothing else to do with Sammy. But that was just that 7-year-old boy reliving those moments. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. So anyway, I just thought about this morning. Don't take stuff so personal. Even this, it did, us not speaking for 4 or 5 years, to me, it has nothing to do with me. It's just him working through who he is. And he knows this about me. If he called me at 2 o'clock in the morning and says, Eddie, I need you, he knows I'd be on the first flight out of here to go see if he's okay. I guess what I'm trying to say with this is, don't take things so personal. Everybody's working through their own issues. There's a reason that your man is jealous. You don't have to justify it. There's a reason your wife might have had that affair. There's a reason somebody quit going to church. It may have nothing to do with the pastor or you. There's just a whole lot of stuff that goes on in life. It happens to all of us, through all of us. I guess my answer to that was, to Lord, when at all possible, let me be tenderhearted toward people. Because somebody maybe act like they quit loving you, doesn't mean you have to reciprocate. If somebody's like done something to you, you don't have to reciprocate. The best thing in life to do is bid people well. Hope for the best for them. And life just has a way of taking care of everything else. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Yes. Bye.